Hello, HERstorians. I'm your host, Heather Ashley, and welcome to another episode of Women of HERstory, a podcast dedicated to celebrating women who have made or are making their mark on our society. Joining me today, as usual, is professional umbrella tester Aquamarine. How was your weekend?
Whoosh, whoosh. It was snow-filled everywhere.
It was very snowy. Yeah,
It was
across the country.
Snow Part 2 for New York City. How was your weekend?
My weekend was so good, also snow-filled. We have a little bit of business again today. To keep up with the young whippersnappers, we are now on TikTok.
I was going to say, is this
This is a TikTok plug.
I was going to say, I didn't get that reference. It must be TikTok.
You guys can follow us there at HERstory Podcast. For all sorts of extra content. Like I said, recently our newest team member, Lauren, is hard at work expanding our social medias across the board. So there's a post up about the Bethesda Fountain in Central Park in New York City. So everybody go check that out and follow for some really cool extra fun.
Very cool video. Very New York City-esque vibes, when you watch the video.
And it'll be extra fun stuff with us in it too in the future.
A little extra New York City in your pocket. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's not for you, but I'm glad you know it's for them. You live here, ma'am. New York City's in your face.
Well, now let's get into today's HERstory lesson. It's about the legendary civil rights activist Dorothy Height. I'm going to start with a quote today.
Nice.
We use words like diversity, but that can be a very good cover-over. It is how people relate to one another that makes the difference. If we don't acknowledge that racism still exists, if we don't acknowledge that sexism still exists, we will never be able to eliminate them. We will have to make diversity more than a slogan. We have to have a genuine appreciation for people who are different. Yes.
That's a great way to start.
That's a good indicator of what this episode is.
For this episode.
Dorothy Height was born on March 24th, 1912 in Richmond, Virginia, to parents James Edward and Fanny Burroughs Height, and was the oldest of two children. Her father was a building contractor and her mother a nurse. Both were widowed twice before marrying one another.
Oh,
I know. Really sad.
So things were supposed to fall apart before they came together. Mm-hmm. I like those stories.
Yeah. When she was young, her family moved to Rankin, Pennsylvania, where she excelled in an integrated school. It was here that she began to participate in anti-lynching activism. She says, I realize what it would be like if we all had our education in situations where diversity was real, because I have never been a student in a segregated class. But I also know what it meant to live and be a small unit within a total community. Dorothy did so well in school that she actually received a scholarship to attend Barnard College in 1929.
Hey, that's great.
When she went to move forward with the scholarship and admission, she was told that she couldn't attend because they had already filled their quota for black students.
No, that's awful.
2 per class.
Oh my God.
They said, nah, I know that we gave you this scholarship because you're amazing, but we already have 2 of you, so we're good.
Oh, well... Damn.
Yeah.
I spoke too soon.
Yeah. She said good riddance, losers, though, and she attended New York University instead.
Cool.
Here, she graduated with a bachelor's degree in education in 1930 and a master's degree in psychology 2 years later in 1932 from Columbia University.
This is before you would go into debt for the rest of your life when you attended NYU. Like, when you went to NYU at this time, it was, like, fine.
It was
like,
a normal...
It was, like, reasonable. Yeah, like, it might have been a little bit more expensive. It was a good school.
But still admit...
You don't go into debt for the rest of your life. Like, you didn't do that before.
Nope.
Now you owe... Now they... Yeah, you have to pay admission as a part of your soul.
It's so expensive.
Very unfortunate.
Crazy. When she left school, she had the qualifications to do a lot of different things, but she was always drawn to public service. She said, I don't compete with other people. I compete with Dorothy Height. I come out of a profession where I am accustomed to thinking we. Her first job out of school was as a caseworker with the New York City Welfare Department in Harlem. And she became active in the United Christian Youth Movement right after its founding in 1933 during the New York Deal era. She was named to deal with the outcome of the Harlem riot in 1935.
Oh, boy.
They were like, you deal with that. But that also shows how much influence and trust people had in her ability to take control of a situation. In 1938, Dorothy was one of 10 young people selected to help First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt plan the World Youth Conference.
That's pretty cool.
Incredible. At age 25, she was tasked with escorting the First Lady to the National Congress of Negro Women meetings.
Wow.
I know. Like, can you imagine being 25, like...
And
chilling with the First Lady.
Yeah, I mean, and having just that much, not only like under your belt, but on your plate. Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
I know. Dorothy joined the staff of the Harlem Young Women's Christian Association, the YWCA. And in true Dorothy fashion, she quickly became a leader within the organization. Here, she was driven to create a diverse program, and she pushed the organization to integrate all YWCA facilities nationwide. Her leadership position in the organization was on a national level. She was the assistant director of the Emma Ransom House in Harlem and the executive director of the Phyllis Wheatley House in D.C.
Shouts out to Harlem.
In a chance encounter through First Lady Roosevelt, Dorothy met African-American leader Mary McLeod Bethune.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, sorry about that pronunciation. I stumbled through it, but
yeah, I remember I did a morsel about her. I know
She's
a little bit about her.
amazing.
Yeah, that's great. That it was all like in the same time period.
Mm-hmm. It's
like,
kind of cool to draw those little.
It's like hearing about the Avengers, but like back in the day, where it's like, oh my god, all these people knew each other. They were all together. Like that Regina King movie. Sorry, that movie One Night in Miami.
Oh,
that,
yes.
Her first directorial debut, and it's supposed to be like like a meeting of like these great. This is going off track, but it was a big meeting of great black male minds at the time, and I kind of like that she did that. Hearing about that, so you telling me that right there is very cool.
Yeah. The encounter inspired her to begin working directly with the National Council of Negro Women. Basically, Miss Bethune was like, we need you part of our organization. She was like, Miss, join us, please.
Yeah.
Two of the main focuses she had here were ending the lynching of African Americans in the United States, because
easy,
yeah,
fair.
You shouldn't have
stupid.
to. You shouldn't have to like.
Yeah, no, we know. Yeah. It's
protest for that. I don't know. It's very strange.
Ridiculous.
And she was also focused on restructuring the criminal justice system. And she said, "I found my life's work. I have been in the proximity of and threatened by the Klan. I have been called everything people of color are called. I have been denied admission because of a quota. I've had all of that, but I've also learned that getting bitter is not the way." And she's a better person than me.
I know. We watched some true crime documentaries, and in my head, while they're like going over these, like what these people have done, I'm just like, I could just. I'd have just
killed him on the spot.
These people get the worst. I know. I just want to like beat these people up and
then you've got people like Dorothy who are like, listen, I've been threatened by the Klan, but I'm not going to get mad.
It's not worth it. We get even. We just,
I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, we make them less than, and it's like, oh, that's definitely the bigger road.
Yeah, that's better.
You got to do that.
You're a better person.
That's the higher road is always the better road.
Dorothy was elected as the national president of Delta Sigma Theta in 1947.
Okay.
Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is an organization of college-educated women committed to the constructive development of its members and to public service with a primary focus on the Black community. She was, of course, a perfect fit for this position, and she held it for 10 years. And I believe, based on my research, you can only hold it for 10 years, and she held it for the entire 10,
That's incredible.
And so her term as president expired in 1957. And she wasted literally zero time and became the 4th president of the National Congress of Negro Women that same year.
What?
She was like, okay, done with that one, and then I'm doing this.
It sounds like you when you do things. You're like, I'm going to do this, and right before I finish this, I'm going to start this. Or, like, as soon as you're done with something that was big, like, a second later, you're like, I'm going to do this now. And I was like, wow.
And here she supported voter registration in the South. And she worked on funding for civil rights activists and so very much more. And while I was reading about her work in voter registration, it's throwing me to
Stacey Abrams.
Yes, Stacey Abrams right now. And it's just, it's, you know,
ding, 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 ding. Yeah, that's exactly what comes
like,
to
mind. Wow, this sounds exactly like where Stacey's
It sounds like exactly where we still are almost 100 years later, where we still have to fight for the same several things. Because
that's frustrating, but it's also like the type of work she was doing and the type of work that's still being done is very interesting, and in the power that these women have, and in just the way that they're able to get excitement, I guess, from people, get people ready and wanting and willing to give their time to these sorts of causes,
sure.
I guess.
Yeah,
and issues.
It's like you have to show me that you're going to work for me and then I'll fight for you. That's
right.
Yeah.
She was the president for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
She led the NCNW through the civil rights years and went right into forming self-help assistance programs in the 70s and 80s.
We've actually interacted with them on Twitter. We've tagged them a couple times and they've interacted with us. That's cool.
During her tenure as president, she was able to build up the NCNW's credibility and fundraising capacity. They were able to attract large grants that made it possible for them to undertake major projects. She helped to establish the National Headquarters Building, 633 Pennsylvania Avenue, NW. Now, this is significant for many reasons. One being that it was the site of the central slave market. And funds Dorothy helped to raise paid off the mortgage on the first black-owned building in downtown Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is that.
Queen.
That's what we want to hear. We like to hear.
She said, racism is not prejudice. It is not bigotry. It is not discrimination. Racism is institutionalized prejudice. It is in the system.
Mm-hmm.
When today we are talking about reparations, we are talking about how this country recognizes that the free labor that came through slavery helped build this country, that this country could not be this strong without what it did. There should be some way of recognizing how the institution of racism is so deeply embedded in our psyche and in our country that somehow we need to think of reparations with a new vision and a new view and think of it in terms of justice long overdue.
Ooh-wee.
I have chills and I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
I want to hear that. I want more of this. I need so much more of this today. That's incredible. That level of accountability where it's like, this is absolutely systemic. That just doesn't go away. It's not like you can't ignore it now. That's incredible.
And
this is incredible.
I think
She's a genius.
Oh my God.
She was so ahead of her time.
Oh my God.
She was ahead of the game. She knew what was going to happen. She was like,
isn't overnight. What a wordsmith. Like, oh my God. Her, just something that really, really resonates with me. And I think something that could be, I don't know, is her being like, we have to recognize that free labor that came through slavery is literally what helped build this country. It built the country. We would not have what we have without the free labor. It's just literally not, it would not be a thing. We would not exist where we are today without the free labor that was happening. It's just, and it's just,
yeah, it makes me mad. It makes me mad. I had to stop what I was thinking because I was like, I just want to jump out the window in anger. I'm so angry.
Yeah.
People are just like, racism isn't a thing. Systemic racism doesn't exist. And then I jump out the window in exhaustion because I'm like, oh my God, they've been fighting this before I was born. Please help me. Give me a sign.
Please.
Look into the sky long enough and I'll see either a meteorite, Superman, or a sign.
Yeah. Dorothy Height was a highly respected woman whose counsel was sought by Eleanor Roosevelt, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and Lyndon B. Johnson. During the height of the civil rights movement, Dorothy established Wednesdays in Mississippi. This was a program where Black and white women from the North and the South would come together to start a dialogue of understanding.
Ooh.
The workshops stressed the need for decent housing, which became the basis for the NCNW in partnership with the Department of Housing and Urban Development to develop turnkey homeownership for low-income families in Gulfport, Mississippi.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that.
I know.
I love that.
Yeah, and I love that it was literally, she was like, all right, we're going to take Black and white women from the North and the South, and we're going to talk it out. Let's talk. Let's get on each other's level. Let's see what we can do to break through these barriers. Let's see what we can do to find some basis of understanding and a common ground to say, you're a mother, I'm a mother. You're a daughter, I'm a daughter. You know, like whatever that needs to be, whatever that common ground needs to be. And she was like, no, let's do it. Wednesdays in Mississippi.
That's
Let's
great
get
that
it.
she was able to do that. I love that. I love that they just called it Wednesdays too, not like something corny like Operation like bridge crossing or something. You know, Operation aisle like hand aisle. I don't know, hand aisle. Edit that out.
No, it's staying.
I hate that.
She's just like, Wednesdays in Mississippi, we're going to chat. Let's have some tea.
I like
you need
that.
coffee?
I like
what
that.
do you want?
That was the OG tea.
Yeah,
That was
yeah. In 1963, Height and others organized the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. She played a major role in the march, though you may not have known that, as she was not invited to speak. She worked closely with Bayard Rustin on the extremely complicated logistics surrounding the march. She used her incredible network of contacts to help raise the funds. I mean, she's like best buds with Eleanor Roosevelt. You know, like she's got connects.
She's got mob ties.
She even went so far as to offer the NCNW headquarters in Washington as a meeting place. She mediated and resolved differences among other organizers as their ideas and egos tended to clash throughout the planning process. She was like, get it together. This is more important than your ego. No women were actually included in the official program.
Ugh.
Although Height was the only woman on the platform during King's I Have a Dream speech.
Wow.
Despite the obvious and sharp gender discrimination woven throughout the civil rights movement, Height worked on the front lines, and she was known as the godmother of the women's movement.
I kind of wish I had learned that in the New York public education school system.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
I definitely enjoyed everything about the
ignored.
civil rights movement, but I would have.
But
liked
you never
to
learned
have
about any
also
of the
been,
black women.
I would have liked to have been told that there was like only one black woman, so that I could have raised my hand and been like,
well,
why?
well, there were a bunch of black women, but she was the only one like allowed to be on the stage. during that time.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry. Specifically,
Yeah.
why? How? Like, why?
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. They were like,
It's interesting.
no black women though. Yeah, kind of. She said the civil rights movement was in reality and effort a drive, a revolutionary movement to change the system under which we live. And we have to give the credit to Dr. Martin Luther King, because he was not assassinated because he was a dreamer. He was assassinated because he dared to change the system. With his leadership, we achieved the Civil Rights Act of '64 and the Voting Rights Act of '65. If we had sustained the climate that we had after the March on Washington, and if we had sustained our dream and our efforts, and we had seen ourselves as more as drum majors for justice, I think we would have been further ahead. Woo.
That's so unfortunate.
I know.
And real.
It is, and it's, I think a part of it, I think a part of her frustration, this is me posturing, so I don't, but I think it could have also been being like, we have all of these women who are part of this movement too. Let us in, let us help, let us keep this going, let us be part of this in more than a behind-the-scenes situation. Dorothy Height didn't just keep her trailblazing ways stateside. She traveled extensively. She was a visiting professor at the University of Delhi, India, in the Delhi School of Social Work. I know, which was founded by the YWCA by the YWCAs of India, Burma, and Ceylon. I didn't know.
So she expanded so much, she just ended up being a professor elsewhere, too. That's
they were
so
like,
cool.
Come chill.
That's great.
Tell us about things.
Yeah.
She made sure to aid in the training of women's organizations in 5 African countries, Liberia, Ghana, Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria, under the Committee of Correspondence. She also visited Haiti and England in her travels. In 1970, she established the Women's Center for Education and Career Advancement in New York City to prepare women for entry-level jobs. In 1975, with Pace College, she established a first-time associate degree for professional studies, which is now a regular professional studies degree at Pace University. So she's just like, this program, ladies, let's get it.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to open this door. I'm going to open this door.
Yeah, she's like, can I please open all the doors for everyone who ever wanted to do anything? Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, Dorothy. In 1975, she participated in the tribunal at the International Women's Year Conference of the United Nations in Mexico City. Because of this, NCNW was awarded a grant from the United States Agency for International Development to hold a conference for women from the United States, African countries, South America, Mexico, and the Caribbean.
That's huge. Holy crap.
With the support of the USAID, she lectured in South Africa after addressing the National Convention of the Black Women's Federation of South Africa near Johannesburg.
I mean, shoot. They broke glass ceilings
just incredible.
Everywhere. That's so cool that they had the opportunity to do that with the proper funding of the United States.
Exactly. With the
hopefully.
Exactly.
Hopefully it was enough. I mean, they got the funding. Hopefully it was enough.
Well, it's amazing that she really was just like she had a vision. She had such a clear vision and did every single thing in her power to continually be working toward that vision.
Yeah.
She says, "We are not a problem people. We are a people with problems. We have historic strengths. We have survived because of family." In 1986, after noticing how misinformation and negative images of Black family life were a significant problem, she founded the annual Black Family Reunion, an annual national festival. She called on the Black community to make itself more independent. She made efforts to draw in more young people into the NCNW, wanting the community to join the war against drugs, illiteracy, and unemployment. Among her many, many other duties, Dorothy found time to serve as a social services expert on local, state, and federal committees concerned with women's issues.
Where'd she find the time?
I
She must
don't
have had
know.
an extra day.
I
She must
really
have had an
think so.
extra day
Yeah.
and a 25th hour.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, she's working. She's what? She's working
25/8.
25/8.
Yeah, that's the one. Yep. Yeah, right. That's nuts. I don't understand how. I mean, I understand how she accomplished that much because she's a badass. But like, I mean,
man. Making me feel like I'm not doing anything.
You're doing great. We're hosting this podcast. Look at you narrating. You know, she wrote this one.
I wrote them all.
Damn.
President
And edit.
President Bill Clinton awarded Dorothy the Medal of Freedom in 1994.
Good.
I know.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Good.
She retired from the NCNW in 1996, but remained a chair and President Emerita. In 2003, she published her memoirs, Open the Freedom Gates. By the way, keep in mind, she was born in 1912. Okay, she published her memoirs.
Said that when?
2003.
1912, 2003.
So.
Oh my god, yeah, I did the math. She's like 91. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. She's still going. 91. Oh my god, just crazy.
91 putting out a book. I'm tired at 28. Putting out a book in 91.
For her role during the Civil Rights Movement, she received numerous awards. In 1989, she received the Citizens Medal Award from President Ronald Reagan. In 2004, she received the Congressional Gold Medal. She was inducted into the Democracy Hall of Fame International, and loser Barnard College awarded her a BA 75 years after they accepted her and then dismissed her.
Damn, Barnard. Well, that's unfortunate.
It is estimated that she has been awarded 36 honorary degrees. In 2004, on her 92nd birthday, President George W. Bush presented her the Congressional Gold Medal, which is the highest civilian and most distinguished award presented by the United States Congress.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad they recognized the real.
They said, yes, Queen, kill it.
You've done everything for over 100 years. Here is this document you get when you live 100 and do what you do. Congratulations. Now walk into this ice chamber where we preserve you for history and time. She's like, oh no.
The paths she forged and legacy she left behind cannot be ignored. Under her leadership, these things, and of course more, were achieved. I pulled this list directly off of the NCNW website. Okay, so here we go. In 1966, NCNW achieved tax-exempt status. In 1974, the NCNW dedicated the statue of Mary Bethune in Lincoln Park, Washington, D.C., the first woman on public land in the nation's capital, and to an African American or woman of any race.
That's
1974.
That's wild.
Yeah.
You know, 74. Oh my.
Yeah. 1974.
Why'd they wait so long?
I don't know. Because women didn't do anything until 1974.
That's what they want us to believe.
Yeah, women didn't contribute to the country until 1974.
Every time we do a recording of an episode, I'm led further and further to believe that they don't want us to think women have done anything.
Oh, shocking.
Yeah,
the patriarchy? What? She developed model national and community-based programs ranging from teenage parenting to pig banks that addressed hunger in rural areas. She was able to establish the Bethune Museum and archives for Black women, the first institution devoted to Black women's history, and she established the Bethune Council House as a National Historic Site. She placed NCNW on a course of issue-oriented politics, sponsoring Wednesdays in Mississippi, when interracial groups of women would help out at freedom schools, voter registration drives in the South, and established communications between Black and white women. Dorothy Height died on April 20th, 2010, at the age of 98. Her funeral was held at Washington National Cathedral. I'm going to leave you with this quote. It is my feeling that if the United States of America makes its democracy strong, we will be such an example to the world that I think the world will change. And I don't think that we can make much democracy elsewhere without strengthening this democracy at home. And I think that's incredible. It's so true. We can't make democracy elsewhere without strengthening what we have here. As much as we want to, we have to set an example, an actual, real example of what it can do and how strong it can be if we're all working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny that it's like over 100 years later and we're still kind of talking about the same thing. Mm-hmm. I also just think it's unfortunate that a lot of women... And I feel like I've said this before. They don't get their just desserts. You know, she got all of the... she received a bunch of accolades towards the end, you know. It was like in the 80s and 90s, she was
even
like...
before the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
It's like
none
it really...
of it...
Well, I'm saying like the big ones.
Instrumental.
I'm saying like the big ones, you know, George Bush and Bill Clinton and Reagan. Like, it took years for them to, like, give her the recognition, and it's kind of sad because if you don't do something big, or not even big, but just something that kind of remotely changes the game, you know, you just kind of get swept away by history. Not like now, what we have now, which thankfully, you know, the efforts and presence of women like Stacey Abrams and AOC won't go, you know, unwritten in history.
And
like,
unnoticed,
in the annals of history,
right.
those women will go down as, like, you know, women of color who really helped change the
the course.
They were real paradigm
and
shifters.
The conversation.
They really, they really helped change the game.
Yeah.
And
I do think it's a little crazy. Kind of like you mentioned, you're like, I did too. I loved learning about the civil rights movement and it inspires you and it makes you, I just don't feel like it ever addressed any of the women involved, particularly Dorothy. She was so instrumental in its success. And then it was specifically the March on Washington. And it's just like, put her in a just kind of by the wayside because, women weren't to speak at that convention. There were a few unofficial speakers before the full event and after. There was a whole thing, but they weren't in the program. It's very interesting. I didn't realize, I'd never considered that whole aspect of that movement, but I've loved researching her. Man, what a woman. 98 years. Yeah, 91, publishing her.
She was
her memoirs.
She was kicking butt to the end, to the very last, to the last breath. It sounded like she was always trying to just accomplish something and help someone else along the way too, which is admirable.
Absolutely. Thank you, HERstorians, for tuning in again. Subscribe, follow, send fan mail. Come back this Friday for an interview with Heather Mcwilliam. Heather recently won her lengthy human rights case against the Toronto Police Department. In this interview, Heather shares with us the courage it took to confront her fellow officers, why she felt she had to take a stand, feeling hopeless, coping with PTSD, coming out the other side, and so much more. It's a doozy. But it is a good one. She's a strong woman.
I was going to say, she sounds like a tough woman.
A tough cookie.
I didn't want to say that, though.
I can say it then.
Yeah.
Follow us on the social media. Our new TikTok at
HERstory Podcast.
Our Facebook.
Women of HERstory.
Twitter.
The HERstory Pod.
Instagram.
Women of HERstory Podcast.
And our website.
Of HERstory.com.
I'm so sorry. All of our handles are just original. A little bit different.
We really ran the gambit with HERstory. We were like, how many things could we get away with?
Oh my
HERstory.
God.
Yeah.
Oh,
just wait until our apparel line really takes off. You'll never
you
see
can wear a
anything.
different design.
You'll never see HERstory ever again.
Get out. Until this Friday, be safe, stay healthy, and show the world what you're made of.
Wear a mask. Seriously, don't use Gorilla Glue on your head. That's just ridiculous. Bye.